you're watching Gears, brought to you by Holley Performance Products. Fuel your passion. And Cornwell Tools, the choice of professionals.
Hey, welcome to Gears. There is no question that the most important component to any project is the engine. I mean, it's the heartbeat of the project. It's what makes it move. And with all of the options that are out there, sometimes it's a bit of a challenge to pick the right engine for the project. So today, we're going to show you how to do that and also how to set the engine up and get it ready to drop in. Now, obviously, the key to this process is selecting the right engine for the build. For example, if you're going to build some sort of vintage hot rod like this, well, a modern Hemi or Coyote or LS engine, then that's just not going to look right. No, you want something like that. Something with 6 deuces or a blower or a tunnel ram on it. Yeah. Now, if you need this kind of engine, well, you're pretty much going to have to build it, because not a lot of people are going to build this for you. You can start with the built short block or long block, but then the top end you're going to have to do yourself. So this is more of a hands-on deal. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, you have an engine like that. This is for a street machine or a muscle car or resto mod or even a kit car. This is for the guy that doesn't want to do much wrenching on the engine. He wants a dynoed engine, something that comes together, something that's complete. He just basically drops in and it comes with a warranty. For this, you're going to have to go to a custom engine builder like a John Cossey, and they'll build you exactly what you want. But most people are somewhere in the middle. They want something cool, something that's dynoed, something that looks good, but they also don't mind turning some wrenches themselves. And that's where the crate engine comes in. Now, you can get these from custom builders like K-Tech, or you can go right to the OEMs and get them. But either way you go, they always show up in a crate. And opening that crate is like Christmas for car guys.
Ho, ho, ho.
Now, what you're looking at here is the GM Performance LS 427 570 horsepower crate engine that takes the legendary LS7 and makes it better. Starting with a cast aluminum block, they stuffed it with a forged steel crank and titanium rods and hypereutectic pistons. They also added a higher lift roller cam and LS7 aluminum heads and fuel injection and a unique wet sump oiling system. This gives you an 11-to-1 compression engine that runs on pump gas and gives you 570 horsepower and 540 foot-pounds. Now, to control all that, the motor also comes with an LS7 ECM, all the proper sensors, and a complete wiring harness. It even includes a drive-by-wire gas pedal to take the place of your stock cable run pedal. This all adds up to make this a great choice to drop into virtually any project. Now, obviously, a modern computer-controlled engine needs a modern computer-controlled transmission if you're going to run an automatic. And that's one of the benefits about utilizing a GM factory-style crate engine. GM also has crate transmissions that are designed to work right with those engines. For example, this is a 6L80E automatic transmission, and it will plug right into the wiring harness of that engine. Let's take a look at this. The tranny comes with a 3,000 stall torque converter. It has 6 forward speeds, the first gear being very deep, so you get a great launch off the line. Top gear being very tall, so you get great run out on the highway and good fuel economy. It also has the controller, the wiring harness. You can program it to run street or strip. You even have a plug to run paddle shifters if that's what you want to do. So this is a great complement to that 427 engine. The only problem is, once the excitement kind of dies down of having a new crate engine, most people will look at them and go, wait a minute, I need a lot more stuff here. And we call this the backslap of the crate engine because most people don't see it coming. For example, this thing still needs a starter, it needs air conditioning, it needs an alternator and power steering. There's no air intake, there's no motor mounts, there's no fuel system. But that's okay, because that's where you and the aftermarket come in, because you got to dress this thing out and finish it and make it fit your vehicle. So the first question should be, what is this going in? Now, like we said before, it's a little too modern to go into a vintage hot rod, but it's perfect to go into a hot rod van. Of course, the main reason for that is that 427 engine has like 5 times the horsepower as that old straight 6. And the LS7 package is pretty compact for an LS engine. So hopefully it'll fit under the doghouse without too many modifications. But we also have to factor in the accessories that go on the front of the engine, the exhaust system, the motor mounts, the air intake, all of that. So that's the challenges. Here's how we're going to solve them. Okay, to get some accessories on the front of this thing, we're going to use this Holley mid-mount accessory drive system. Now this allows you to mount an air conditioning compressor, an alternator, a power steering pump, and a water pump, all in a central manifold. And this manifold bolts right in place of the stock manifold. No extra brackets required. The best part is, once all those accessories are in place, none of them will come out past the heads, which is really nice on a tight engine compartment like that van. Installation starts with the replacement of the damper and the water pump manifold. Then the new components just bolt on one by one. And that takes care of the accessories. And that black powder coat looks really good on this engine. The exhaust is next, and the factory manifolds are just too wide. So we're going to narrow it down with these Hooker cast iron LS manifolds. These are designed to fit extremely tight to the block, giving us more room, but they still flow almost as good as a header. And they bolt in place using stock hardware and gaskets. The valve covers are next, and most people agree that the exposed coils are the ugliest part of a modern engine. So we're going to hide them with these two-piece Holley valve covers. They have a base plate that replaces the stock valve cover. The coils mount to that. Then it's all covered by an aluminum cap that looks like a traditional valve cover, but has access holes for the plug wires to come through. Now, that looks like an engine that's ready to go into a project, and that's exactly what we're going to do with it once we pull out that old straight six and lay it to rest.
A successful automotive project takes planning and organization. But instead of using an old tablet or notebook, there's the Gears Deluxe Project Planning Book. This was designed to help you lay out a project, the parts, the tools, costs, and keep it organized with colored tabs, a pouch for receipts, and even a place to attach photos. If you decide to sell the vehicle, it serves as a complete history of what's been done. If you have a project or plan on starting one, the Gears Project Planning Book is the best way to lay it out and make it happen. And now it's time for another quick tip.
You know, there was a time when 100,000 miles was like a death sentence on an engine. I mean, they didn't go much more than that. Well, that's all changed with today's modern engines. Now it's not uncommon to get 200, 300,000 miles or more out of an engine if you take care of it. And that's the question. How do you take care of it to get that kind of mileage? Well, the first thing that you want to do if you're getting a used vehicle is find out as much history as you can about the vehicle. What kind of oil was used? How was it serviced? When was it serviced? How was it used? How was it driven? All of these kind of things will give you a good idea about what kind of vehicle you've got. Then the first thing you want to do is drain that old oil out of there and get some new oil in. Now, on a high mileage engine, I like to flush the engine to get all of that goo and sludge out of there that builds up over time. And this Stiction Eliminator from Hot Shots is the perfect thing to do that. You pour it in and it does its job while you're driving. It's not a separate step. Then, of course, you want to get a nice high-quality synthetic oil in there. That is for high-mileage engines because it'll have the right lubricants in there to make sure those seals stay nice and soft. Then go to your power steering, purge that, replace the fluid because that gets bad over time, and then go to your cooling system. Same thing. Drain it, flush it, and put in new coolant. Also, if you find any leaks in the radiator or the water pump or the hoses, replace the parts. Don't just pour in a bunch of stop leak. You will regret that down the road. And then finally, make sure you're taking the vehicle out and driving it on a regular basis. There is nothing worse on a vehicle that has been driven a lot to all of a sudden sit for long periods of time. Bearings will get dry, seals will crack and go bad, gaskets will start to leak, and you'll end up with an oil burner, and you don't want that. Now, if you follow these tips, you will be surprised how many miles you'll get out of an engine. If you'd like to learn more tips to make your life easier in the shop, check out the tips page on the website.
And now, Paint Tech, brought to you by KBS Coatings. Rust stops here.
When it comes to building or restoring a vehicle, the paint job can be one of the most expensive and time-consuming parts of the whole project. But there's more things that you have to paint besides just the exterior body panels. Now there's the engine, there's the frame, there's the suspension, there's the bed if you've got a truck. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here, and they all need protective coatings. And they all require different products to protect them. So the question is, how do you know what to use, when to use it, and how to use it? Those are good questions. So today we're going to jump into choosing the right top coat for those other areas you got to paint. Okay, the first thing you have to do with any paint work is prep the surface properly if you want the paint to stick and last a long time. So you'll need to use a cleaner first to get rid of any grease and grime, then follow that with a metal etch or sealer to make sure you're going to get good adhesion of the top coat. Okay, with that out of the way, let's take a look at the type of paint you're going to need to put on an engine or a transmission. Now, obviously, engines create heat, and they're subject to all kinds of fluids like gasoline, oil, antifreeze, etc. So using some cheap paint off the rack at the hardware store, that's just a waste of time and money because it's going to burn off and discolor real quick. Now, what you need to use is a real engine paint because they're designed to handle the high temperatures and the chemicals and oil and grease that engines are exposed to. Okay, the next area that's going to need some paint is the frame and the undercarriage, under the hood, all those kind of areas. And for that, you're going to want a special rust preventative paint like this Rust Seal from KBS, because you can paint this right over rust or bare metal and it will prevent rust from happening. Now, the thing to remember about these rust preventative paints, most of these are not UV protected, which means they will stop rust, but they will fade over time if they're in direct sunlight. So you have to put a top coat over these if you don't want that to happen. Now I know you're thinking, well, what do I top coat it with? Well, pretty much anything you want. You can use stuff out of a spray can, stuff with a paintbrush, you can put it on with a spray gun, just any kind of quality paint, metallics, solids, whatever you want to put on there to make it pop. Now, if you have a truck and you want to coat the bed or the bumpers with a durable textured paint, you need to step up to a bed liner style coating. Now, this is obviously a thicker coating that is extremely tough and has a textured finish to handle impacts. Now, these coatings are not as thick or permanent as something like a Line-X, but they are a fraction of the price and they can be applied by you with a roller in your garage. Now, what if you have your top coat color the way you want it, but you want to add more durability? Maybe put a gloss or a satin finish on it, or just lock in some cool patina like this. That's where a clear coat comes in, because you can paint this over virtually any paint. You can put it over fiberglass, you can put it over metal. Heck, you can put it over metal that's been polished or scuffed or even sealed with something like shark hide, because that clear coat will lock it all in and give you a protective coating on it. Then you can buff it out to a gloss, you can scuff it to a satin finish, whatever you want to do. And that's it. That's the other finishes that you're going to have to put on your project to finish it off. Now, obviously, they're a lot cheaper than this big paint job is, but they're all just as important to build a well-rounded, usable vehicle that's going to last you a long time.
And now, Coating Tech, brought to you by Jet Hot High Performance Coatings. Unbeatable protection, performance, and service since 1982.
You know, you don't have to look very hard these days to see that the term ceramic is used on everything from paint coatings to kitchen knives. So it's no wonder that people get a little confused when you talk about ceramic paint versus a ceramic coating, because they are different. So today we're going to take a look at just exactly what a ceramic coating is and how it's different than paint. A professional ceramic coating is a proprietary coating that requires special metal prep and application to get the proper bonding and curing to the metal. The point of ceramic coatings is not just to coat high temperature parts to make them look good. No, they're engineered to make them perform better as well. Here's how. The coating seals the metal and stops corrosion. even through extreme heat and cooling cycles. This header shows what can quickly happen to untreated metal. The coating also enhances the flow through the tubes and eliminates pressure. It also drops temperature in the engine compartment by about 60%, and it keeps the heat in the pipe. This reduces thermal cycling, which can lead to metal fatigue. Now, as you may have guessed, not all ceramic coatings are the same. For example, the classic polish is the one that put Jet Hot on the map, and it will handle up to 1250 degrees. And that's what we used on the Cheetah exhaust with a bronze top coat. If you're after a smooth, clean surface, this is the coating you want. Now, if you need more protection, they have the off-road coating, which will handle up to 2000 degrees. And that's what we used on the Sergeant Rock headers and exhaust system. And for the ultimate in protection, they have the Ultra Extreme Heat Thermal Barrier. This will handle up to 2500 degrees without cracking or peeling, and is what we used on the SR71 exhaust system. Now, this coating is a little bit thicker, a little more textured than the others, but it still has a great visual impact. Now, hopefully you can see that there's a lot that goes into choosing the right ceramic coating when you're trying to reduce heat. It's not something you can do yourself, and it is expensive. But if you want the long-term benefits of a ceramic coating, it's money well spent. You know, one of the first true freedoms you experience as a kid is that first bicycle. Man, it becomes your transportation to the world, or at least the local neighborhood. And in my neighborhood, man, we all had bikes. And we'd stick playing cards in the spokes, and we'd suck on black licorice, make it look like we were big biker dudes, and it was magic. But a bike wasn't just about transportation. No, it became an extension of your personality. And there were all kinds of bikes out there. There were 10 speeds, there were mountain bikes, there were Stingrays, there were BMX bikes, and they all had their strengths and weaknesses. And that's where the idea for the story of the Purple Bicycle came from. Because just like a bike might wish it had the talents or skills of another bike, so do we sometimes overlook our God-given talents and wish we had somebody else's talents, skills, because they seem to be better than ours. It's a simple lesson, but something we all need to be reminded of from time to time.
And now, Parts Bin.
You know, one of the first and best upgrades that you can do to a vehicle is the brakes. And Wilwood has been supplying high-performance brake components to hot rodders and racers for a long time. They have drilled and slotted rotors and these billet hubs that are drilled for all the popular bolt patterns. And they just fit together. When you wear the rotor out, you replace it, but you don't have to replace the hub. That's a cool setup. They also have multi-piston calipers. They've got the mounting brackets. They've got the hoses, they've got all the brake components. Then they also have spindles, they have steering arms, all that kind of stuff. But they also have things for the other side of the brake hoses. For example, take a look at this pedal assembly. Now this is for the person that wants to run a clutch, brakes, and accelerator pedal all together where you never had them before. As you can see, you have a heavy-duty mounting bracket. Then you can adjust all of your pedals to have them exactly where you want them. You have this equalizer bar for the brakes, so you can run front and rear reservoirs right here. You can run the reservoirs down like this, or you can run them remotely if you're down in a footwell and can't get to it. Then, of course, for your accelerator pedal, you've got all kinds of bracketry where you can actually dial this in exactly how you want it. So if you're building a race car or a hot rod, or you just need some pedals and some brakes where you don't have any, Wilwood's got the parts to help you put it together. If given the choice, most people would prefer to have a stick in their project so they can manually shift those gears. But the problem is, you don't just need to put a 5 or 6-speed transmission in, you also need to find the pedals to make it work. And that can be a challenge, especially if you have a truck. Well, American Powertrain has got a solution for that with a whole line of hydraulic clutch pedal conversions for classic GM trucks. Now you got to check this out. As you can see, you got a clutch pedal assembly that looks just like a factory clutch pedal. So it's going to look good with the brake pedal. But if you look up here, you can see there is nothing stock about this. You've got a special bracket, you have your master cylinder, Then you have a remote reservoir that mounts under the dash so it's out of the way. Then you run your line down to your release bearing and actuate your clutch. Now, what makes this really cool is you don't have to mess with pedal ratio, you don't have to mess with all of that mechanical linkage, none of that, because American Powertrain has done the math, so these are going to work properly. The best part is they've got them for the 60 through 66 GM trucks, the 67 through 72, the square bodies, even up to 88 to 94. So if you've got a classic GM truck and you've always wanted to shift your own gears, now you can, provided you put the right pedal in. When you're building a custom vehicle, whether it's a hot rod or a muscle car or an off-roader, the steering column is something you really need to consider, because these old columns are usually broken and in need of restoration or updating, which means it's the perfect time to pull that out and update it with a new one. And I did. It's got a whole bunch of options for you to take a look at. Now, if you have limited room in your vehicle, this little hot rod column is a great choice because it's got the little small diameter shaft, it has a fixed head, but it's wired for turn signals, emergency flashers, and it will take an aftermarket steering wheel. Now, if tilt is your thing, well, check this out. It's got all kinds of tilt options. You can get it with a column shift, you can get it with key on the column, you can get different finishes, got all kinds of options here. Also, they offer these as direct replacements for a factory column for most muscle cars, trucks, and Jeeps. So you pull your old column out, bolt a new one in, you don't have to mess with any brackets, anything like that. If you're building something custom, you can get a tilt column in whatever length you need, using the splines that you want, and whatever options that you want to add. Also, there's all kinds of column drops available, U-joints, floor mounts, double D shafts, everything that you're going to need to put in a custom column. So if you're ready to replace a column or just put a column in something that you're building, it's got the parts, so you can do it yourself.
What are you working on? Brought to you by Woodward Fabrication, selling quality metalworking equipment since 1966.
Today's What Are You Working On comes from Rex August. He's from Ohio. Man, what a cool name Rex August is. That's like Jack Reacher, man. Anyway, Rex has a great story. He's working on a 54 Chevy pickup, and he said that he had one in high school in the 70s. Then he said he married his high school sweetheart, and they started having kids, so he sold the truck to get a family car. But for their 30th wedding anniversary, his wife found him a 54 Chevy project truck, and they bought it, and they started working on it, and 9 months later, it was on the road. So he said, now it's time to do the truck right and do a full ground-up build on it. So check this out. The motor's gonna be a 383 small block Chevy, then he's got a Tremec 5-speed behind it, then in the back end, he's got a Dana 60 with a pause. Yeah, this thing's gonna rock and roll. Now, he said the truck is almost done, and here's a picture of him and his whole family with the truck, because they've been chipping in, helping with it too. What a cool story. So to recognize such a unique project, we hooked up with the guys at Woodward Fab, and we're gonna give you one of these metal shears. I'm sure you could have used it when you were building the truck, but now you have it for your next project. And of course, since you're a child of the 70s, we wanted to show you some of these Johnny Lightnings. Then we're gonna give you one of these deluxe project planning books. This way you can keep track of everything that you did on that truck. Then we're gonna give you one of our Gears t-shirts, because obviously you're a real gearhead. We're going to give you a gift card from Holley, because I know you wanted to put some Holley parts on that truck. And then we're going to give you one of our stunt double die casts, because it's just cool. Now, for the rest of you guys, if you want to get in on this and get your project featured on the show, you got to send it to us. Go to our website, go to Gears Nation, and submit it into What Are You Working On? The website's also the place to find out more information on any products you may have seen on the show, any Gears merchandise, and how to join Gears Nation. You can also see Gears episodes for free on our YouTube channel and become a channel member. That way you get bonus content and you get early access to all the new episodes. Also, don't forget to check us out on Amazon Prime for Gears and the Gears Restoration series. Finally, don't forget to like us on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're a radio person, make sure you check out our podcast, Tales of a Gearhead. Okay, that finishes it up for us today, which means it is time for you to get out there and start working on something of your own. Find yourself a project, start turning wrenches on it. We'll see you next time.
Ho, ho, ho!